Who doesn't have moments from your past that make you cringe? Who hasn't said, I can't believe I said that? I can't believe I wore that. I can't believe I thought that. I can't believe I did that. You ate dirt. You wanted to be a Ghostbuster. You shoplifted gum. You tried to be a white breakdancer. Many liberals also want to abuse history to control the present. And last month, a scholar named James Sweet caught hell for calling them out for doing just that. He criticized the phenomenon known as presentism, which means judging everyone in the past by the standards of the present. It's the belief that people who lived 100 or 500 or 1,000 years ago really should have known better.
BillMaher has finally revealed the real reason he's been relentlessly criticizing the woke left, and it's nothing short of explosive. A lifelong liberal, Maher once stood proudly with progressives, championing their causes and waving the banner of the left. But recently, he's turned his fire on the very movement he once helped lead, sending shockwaves through liberal circles. The man who used to echo the progressive agenda now sounds increasingly aligned with centrist and even center-right perspectives. So what changed? Today, we're diving into why Maher has been turning up the heat on the woke left, and trust me, this isn't just a spark. It's a full-blown blaze. Somebody better call the fire department.
The problem is that nobody ever gets canceled for being too woke. So you can say the craziest thing, like men can have babies, and then nobody will, even though people are thinking, well, that's kind of nuts, nobody will say it. They'll just fall in line. Yeah, exactly. That's what I've always thought, men can have babies, sure. I saw a dude who was glowing yesterday, and that's the problem.
And it's totally insane.
Cowardice.
Yes, it is. It's moral cowardice, isn't it?
It's intellectual cowardice.
But it also comes from a place of reality, that fear, because they see people around them literally getting cancelled, getting shamed and abused and hounded out of jobs. And they think, I don't want it to happen to me.
BillMaher didn't hold back when he took aim at the woke mob, warning that their unchecked influence and extreme ideologies needed to be stopped, because no one else had the courage to do it. In Maher's view, these beliefs weren't just misguided. They were outright absurd and flew in the face of basic common sense. But what's even more alarming, he argued, is the culture of fear that has taken hold. The threat of being cancelled looms so large that many people choose silence over honesty, afraid to speak up and risk public backlash. Some bite their tongues to avoid controversy, while others go along with the narrative just to stay safe, highlighting how dangerous fear becomes when it's weaponized in the name of ideology.
I can't count the number of stories I've either covered on the show or just read about of professors at colleges, which are supposed to be the bastions of free speech, who said something that was just an opinion.
One guy,
that was
one
different.
Professor in America, he gave a lecture for 25 years about the use of offensive language. And then some students complained about his use of offensive language in the lecture about offensive language. And he had to lose his job. And at that point, I just felt that was peak woke insanity. He literally was lecturing about offensive language and using offensive language to illustrate it.
They have no sense of nuance. They have no sense of context. They just know certain buzzwords or certain concepts are out of limits, off limits, and since social media is just a bunch of mean girls.
I have to admit, on this point, I find myself siding with BillMaher. While social media has brought plenty of positives, it's also become one of the most toxic spaces in modern life. Take Twitter, for example. Once envisioned as a digital town square, it's devolved into a battleground where free speech is often under siege. Cancel mobs swarm anyone who dares to challenge the woke left, turning open dialogue into a dangerous game. Instead of encouraging healthy debate, platforms like Twitter have become arenas for tribal warfare, a place where people throw insults instead of ideas, and no one really listens. The polarization has grown so severe that it's bleeding into our personal lives. In some cases, Democrat women are openly refusing to date or marry Republican men solely because of political beliefs. It's a troubling sign of the times. When online division starts shaping our real-world relationships, we're no longer just disagreeing, we're actively pulling away from one another.
This is what's so obnoxious about that side of things, that just idea of we're not really lifting people up. Liberalism is about lifting people up, not catching people.
And tolerating people.
It's not about white self-loathing.
Yes.
It's about, yes, we have a horrible history in this country. Let's make it right in the ways that make sense. It's not just about catching people at stuff.
This is the heart of the issue. The woke left isn't focused on building, uplifting, or improving. Their mission seems rooted in tearing down people and institutions, brick by brick, without offering real solutions or viable alternatives. It's demolition without a blueprint. They thrive on disruption, eager to dismantle traditions, norms, and long-standing structures, yet they offer nothing concrete to replace them. This isn't progress or reform, it's scorched earth politics. And that's exactly why BillMaher is raising the alarm that he sees the danger. If left unchecked, the woke left wouldn't just chip away at America, they could dismantle it entirely, leaving behind nothing but ideological rubble where a functioning nation once stood.
So I think that really is kind of the center of the country. Old school liberalism, take a victory lap. You kind of won on a lot of things, but it's another funny pathology of liberals. They don't want to acknowledge progress because they somehow feel like if I acknowledge progress, well, then I'm not as authentic a progressive. It's right in your name. And that's what you're selling, progress.
Maher drops another truth bomb here, and it's one that's hard to ignore.
BillMaher delivers yet another hard-hitting truth, and this one's difficult to dismiss. America has come an extraordinary distance since the 1950s. We've made historic progress. Women not only gained the right to vote but now lead Fortune 500 companies. Civil rights have expanded, barriers have been broken across education, business, and politics, and democracy has grown stronger through it all. Yet, despite all this undeniable advancement, the woke left seems unwilling, or perhaps unable, to acknowledge it. Instead, they cling to a narrative of constant despair, painting America as an irredeemable failure. In their eyes, this country is no better than authoritarian regimes like Russia, China, or North Korea, nations where free speech is a crime and democracy is a myth. That comparison isn't just misguided, it's an insult to the generations who fought to move this nation forward. It dismisses decades of hard-won progress and sacrifices made by people across the political spectrum. But then Maher made a surprising comment about Donald Trump, and it's something worth paying close attention to.
On Donald Trump, all this legal mayhem that's flying at him, does it actually empower him? Does it have the opposite effect, perhaps, to what the Democrats would hope it would have?
Yes, well, that was the end of the show tonight when I was talking about the Stormy Daniels issue. I mean, it's always going to strike people as sex. When it's about getting a guy for sex, I don't think they should have discouraged. I guess Alvin Bragg can do what he wants. But if I was the president or somebody, I would have discouraged him quietly. Let's not do this one. Because we're going to see Trump hauled into court, as we did, and that's going to be the big story, and it's going to be just high fives on MSNBC. And look, I was thrilled. There's something cathartic about seeing.
BillMaher saw right through the left-leaning media's relentless obsession with taking down Donald Trump, and he recognized the fatal flaw in their approach. Their strategy was bound to backfire. Rather than weakening Trump, the constant attacks only amplified his appeal. And that's exactly what happened. When he was finally hauled into court, networks like MSNBC and CNN treated it like the grand finale of their anti-Trump crusade, certain they had delivered the knockout blow. But they couldn't have been more wrong. The wall-to-wall coverage didn't bury Trump, it boosted him. It catapulted him back to the center of America's political conversation. Every headline, every segment, every breathless panel discussion painted him less as a villain and more as a political warrior under siege. In trying to take him down, the media handed Trump the ultimate campaign spotlight, and he ran with it, dominating the stage once again.
Constantly amazed when I rewatch movies from only a decade or so ago, and they were made in a way that today would get you burned at the Twitter stake. It's complicated. From 2009, to name just one of many I could choose, was made by a who's who of the most blue ribbon certified Hollywood liberals, woke approved and Democratic Party contributing, from the stars to the producers to the director. But it apparently occurred to none of them to have any kind of minority in the cast. You would need a divining rod to find a person of color within 500 feet of this movie set. But if they made it today, they do.
This is exactly why so many movies today feel lifeless. In the rush to appease the woke crowd, creativity has taken a backseat to virtue signaling and box checking, and it's painfully obvious. Characters and storylines no longer feel authentic or compelling, they feel engineered, as if assembled in a corporate boardroom rather than born from genuine storytelling. Producers aren't crafting narratives because they make sense or resonate emotionally. Instead, they're cramming in characters, themes, and subplots to satisfy a small but vocal audience. Subtlety and nuance have all but disappeared, replaced by clunky, heavy-handed messaging that feels more like a lecture than entertainment. Let's be honest, it's hard to sit through a modern blockbuster without the now obligatory representation moment, often inserted awkwardly with no real connection to the plot.
Liberals also want to abuse history to control the present. And last month, a scholar named James Sweet caught hell for calling them out for doing just that. He criticized a phenomenon known as presentism, which means judging everyone in the past by the standards of the present. It's the belief that people who lived 100 or 500 or 1,000 years ago really should have known better.
It's not just everyday people getting caught in the crosshairs of the woke mob. Our historical icons have become targets too. Figures like Abraham Lincoln, George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, and Theodore Roosevelt have been posthumously dragged through the mud. Statues have been toppled, monuments dismantled, and legacies reduced to a single flaw, as if lifetimes, even centuries, of contributions can be erased with a headline or a hashtag. The woke movement seems hell-bent on rewriting history, applying today's moral standards to the past while ignoring the complex realities of the eras these leaders lived in.
Who doesn't have moments from your past that make you cringe? Who hasn't said, I can't believe I said that? I can't believe I wore that. I can't believe I thought that. I can't believe I did that. You ate dirt. You wanted to be a Ghostbuster. You shoplifted gum. You tried to be a white breakdancer.
We've all had moments where, in hindsight, we know we could have done better. That's part of being human. So when people today harshly judge historical figures for actions taken decades or even centuries ago, it rings with a certain hypocrisy, and that's exactly the kind Bill Maher can't stand. It's one of the reasons he's been quietly edging toward the political center. Even if he doesn't say it outright, Maher sees what the modern left has become: rigid, self-righteous, and increasingly intolerant of imperfection. The endless purity tests leave no space for nuance, growth, or forgiveness. Every past misstep becomes grounds for cancellation. To Maher, this mindset isn't just short-sighted, it's dangerous. It doesn't only rewrite history, it chokes off open dialogue. And for someone who built his career on challenging ideas and speaking freely, that's a line he refuses to cross.
Then grown into the persons we would become. And humanity writ large is just a collective version of that. Did Columbus commit atrocities? Of course. But people back then were generally atrocious. Everybody who could afford one had a slave, including people of color. The way people talk about slavery these days, you'd think it was a uniquely American thing that we invented in 1619. But slavery throughout history has been the rule, not the exception. The Sumerians, the Egyptians, the Greeks, Romans, the Arabs, British, the early Americans, all the way up through R. Kelly.
Our past heroes lived within the norms and limitations of their time. And even under those constraints, they achieved monumental things, accomplishments so significant that today's self-proclaimed woke warriors can scarcely begin to match them. But instead of acknowledging that historical context, the woke left sits in moral judgment, condemning these figures for actions that were not only accepted in their era but often expected. It's historical arrogance, judging the past through the lens of modern values, with no regard for the complexities of the times. And it's exactly this mindset that Bill Maher has grown increasingly critical of. To Maher, the modern woke movement isn't interested in building or inspiring. Its mission is to dismantle, rewrite, and erase, from history books to pop culture. In their pursuit of ideological purity, they risk destroying the very foundation on which progress was made, replacing legacy with rubble and nuance with dogma. Maher's growing opposition to the woke left isn't rooted in betrayal, it's a principled stand against extremism. He sees a movement that vilifies historical figures, stifles free speech, injects division into culture and media, and weaponizes fear to silence dissent. In his eyes, the stakes are clear. If we allow this mindset to take over, we don't just lose our history, we lose the future too. Maher's shift toward the political center is, at its core, a defense of reason, dialogue, and the belief that progress should be built upon, not burned down.